Let's get right into it. Number 5. Vlad the Impaler. Imagine this. You're part of the Ottoman army in the 1400s. You're marching through the dense forests of Wallachia, ready to crush a small rebellious kingdom. You push forward, weapons ready, but then you smell something. The air is heavy, metallic, almost like blood. You turn the corner, and there it is, a forest of corpses. Thousands of enemy soldiers, merchants, even prisoners, all impaled on wooden stakes, their bodies swaying in the wind like grotesque scarecrows. Welcome to the nightmare realm of Vlad III, better known as Vlad the Impaler. Vlad ruled a small region called Wallachia, in what is now Romania. He wasn't just fighting invaders, he was fighting to terrify them into never coming back. His favorite method? You guessed it, impalement. He didn't just kill people, he turned their deaths into psychological warfare. The most famous story comes from 1462. The Ottoman Sultan Mehmet II, the same guy who conquered Constantinople, marched in with an army of over 90,000 soldiers. Vlad had a fraction of that. Instead of meeting them head-on, he played dirty. He used guerrilla tactics, poisoning wells, burning crops, and striking at night when the enemy least expected it. One night raid was so intense that the Ottoman soldiers panicked and retreated, only to stumble into Vlad's masterpiece. 20,000 bodies impaled on stakes, stretching as far as the eye could see. The Sultan saw this, turned pale, and reportedly said, "It is not possible to win against a man who does such things." And then he left. Over the course of his reign, it's estimated Vlad killed at least 80,000 people, with some sources suggesting the number could have been closer to 100,000. For a small kingdom, that's staggering. Vlad wasn't a hero, he wasn't a villain, he was a weaponized nightmare, a man who understood that fear could be deadlier than swords. Oh, and fun fact, his legend later inspired Bram Stoker's most famous monster, Dracula. Number 4. Spartacus. Now let's jump back in time to the Roman Empire. Picture a massive arena, crowds roaring, swords clashing. In the center stands a gladiator, muscles covered in sweat and blood, wielding a weapon not just for survival, but for freedom. His name, Spartacus. Spartacus started as a Thracian soldier, captured by the Romans and sold into slavery. He was sent to gladiator school near Capua, a brutal place where men were trained to fight to the death for entertainment. But Spartacus wasn't content to die for the amusement of Rome's elite. In 73 BCE, he and about 70 other gladiators broke free, armed with nothing but kitchen knives and stolen swords. Here's where things get wild. That small escape party snowballed into an army of over 100,000 escaped slaves. And Spartacus wasn't just some muscle-bound fighter. He was a tactical genius. He outmaneuvered Romans' legions using terrain, surprise attacks, and even the enemy's own strategies against them. One of his greatest victories was at Mount Vesuvius. The Romans thought they had him trapped, surrounding the mountain, but Spartacus's army scaled down the cliffs with ropes made of vines, attacked from behind, and completely crushed the Roman forces. It was like something out of an action movie. For 2 years, Rome was humiliated by this rebellion. Spartacus had the power to march on Rome itself, but instead, he aimed to free his people and escape. Sadly, in 71 BCE, the Romans sent their richest man, Crassus, to finish the job. Spartacus fought bravely in the final battle, cutting through enemy lines to reach Crassus himself, but was eventually overwhelmed. His rebellion was crushed, and 6,000 of his captured soldiers were crucified along the Appian Way as a warning. While Spartacus himself didn't commit mass killings, his rebellion caused tens of thousands of Roman deaths, with estimates ranging from 30,000 to 50,000 soldiers and civilians. Even in death, Spartacus became a symbol of resistance. He showed Rome and the world and even the mightiest empire could be shaken by one man's courage and brilliant strategy. Number 3. Miyamoto Musashi. Fast forward to 17th century Japan. 2 warriors face each other on a remote island. One is Sasaki Kojiro, a master swordsman known for his deadly shallow cut technique. The other, a scruffy, unshaven ronin named Miyamoto Musashi, who shows up late carrying a sword carved from a wooden boat oar. Sounds insane, right? But here's the thing. Musashi wasn't just any samurai. He was the greatest duelist in Japanese history. Born in 1584, Musashi fought his first duel at age 13. By the time he was 30, he had fought over 60 duels and never lost. That's right, undefeated. What made him so deadly wasn't just skill with a blade, but his mind. Musashi mastered psychological warfare. He'd deliberately arrive late to duels to throw his opponent off balance, or fight with unexpected weapons like wooden swords. Against Kojiro, he used the rising sun to blind his rival, struck first, and killed him with a single blow. Musashi developed his own unique style called Natin Ichiru, which used two swords at once, a long katana and a shorter wakizashi. In an era where most samurai used only one sword, this gave him a massive advantage. While Musashi didn't command armies or lead massacres, his personal kill count from duels and battles is estimated to be well over 100 confirmed deaths, possibly many more from his time in war campaigns. For a single man fighting alone, that's terrifying. Musashi wasn't just a warrior. He was also a philosopher, artist, and writer. His book, The Book of Five Rings, is still studied by martial artists and even business leaders today. It's all about strategy, timing, and knowing both yourself and your enemy. Musashi's legacy lives on not just because he was unbeatable, but because he showed that true mastery is about more than fighting. It's about understanding life itself. Number 2. Alexander the Great. Now, we move to a figure who didn't just fight battles, he conquered the world. Alexander of Macedonia, better known as Alexander the Great, was born in 356 BCE. By the age of 20, he became king. By 30, he ruled the largest empire the world had ever seen. Alexander wasn't just sitting on a throne issuing orders. He led from the front lines, often charging into battles alongside his men. And he had the mind of a chess master. Take the Battle of Gaugamela. His army, about 47,000 soldiers. Persian army, more than 250,000. On paper, Alexander should have been crushed. Instead, he used clever tactics like creating gaps in his formation to lure the Persians in, then striking down their king Darius III. The result? Total victory. The Persian Empire collapsed soon after. Throughout his campaigns, Alexander's wars caused staggering losses. Historians estimate that over 500,000 enemy soldiers and civilians died during his conquests, and that doesn't even include the tens of thousands of his own men who perished. Alexander didn't stop there. He marched across Egypt, Persia, and even into India, founding over 20 cities, many of them named Alexandria. Everywhere he went, he spread Greek culture, art, and ideas, creating what we now call the Hellenistic world. What made Alexander truly terrifying was his combination of charisma and brilliance. His soldiers worshipped him, often calling him the son of Zeus. Enemies feared him because he never lost a battle, not once. Unfortunately, his empire didn't last. Alexander died at just 32 years old, possibly poisoned, leaving his generals to fight over his legacy. But even today, military academies study his strategies. When you think of a warrior who shaped history through sheer willpower, Alexander the Great is the name that comes to mind. Number 1. Genghis Khan. Finally, at the top of our list, we have the man who turned the world upside down, Genghis Khan. Born around 1162 on the harsh steppes of Mongolia, Genghis, originally named Temujin, started from nothing. His father was poisoned, his family was abandoned by their tribe, and young Temujin had to fight just to survive. But he rose from these brutal beginnings to become the leader of the largest contiguous empire in human history. Here's why he was so deadly. His warriors were horse archers, capable of hitting targets while galloping at full speed. They could ride hundreds of miles in a single day, attacking enemies who didn't even know they were there yet. Genghis also mastered psychological warfare. If a city surrendered, He spared it and absorbed its people into his empire. If they resisted, he made an example of them. There are accounts of entire cities being wiped out, hundreds of thousands killed, not just to win a battle, but to terrify the next city into surrendering without a fight. One of his favorite tactics was the feigned retreat. His army would pretend to flee, luring the enemy into a trap, then surround and destroy them. It worked so well that centuries later, the European generals copied it. By the time of his death in 1227, Genghis Khan's campaigns were estimated to have caused around 40 million deaths. That's more than some modern wars combined. His conquests reshaped entire civilizations, wiping out kingdoms and changing the course of history forever. Even today, genetic studies suggest that 1 in every 200 men on Earth is descended from Genghis Khan. That's how massive his impact was. Genghis wasn't just a conqueror. He was a storm, a force of nature that rewrote history through speed, strategy, and sheer ruthlessness. From Vlad's forests of fear and 80,000 deaths, to Spartacus's rebellion with tens of thousands killed, Musashi's unmatched dueling record and hundreds of personal kills, Alexander's campaigns with over 500,000 dead, and Genghis Khan's world-shattering 40 million deaths, these 5 warriors weren't just deadly with weapons, they changed the course of history. They remind us that power comes in many forms: fear, strategy, skill, charisma, and sometimes the ability to make your enemies tremble before the fight even begins.